Colonel Muammar Gaddafi and the Libyan people. What you have done for Africa far outweighs any shortcomings. It is African people who must define and write our history and say who are our heroes and our sheroes. To our brothers and sisters of the African Union, for which we are all equal partners, the time for action is now. To our brothers and sisters of the African Union, we are an African people.
That's right.
We are an African people, Pan-Africanism or perish.
Thank you.
Brothers and sisters, our next speaker will be the Councilman Charles Barron.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I want to say on behalf of the Freedom Party, who came into existence to protect the integrity of African people and Latino people domestically, but also the sovereignty of our nations abroad, whether they're in Africa or in Latin America. The bombing of Libya is like bombing Harlem. It's like bombing Bedford-Stuyvesant.
Right.
It's like bombing the South Bronx.
Right.
We are one people. We are one African people. And as Fred Hampton said, you can kill a revolutionary, but you can never kill the revolution.
Right.
No matter what happens in Libya, change is inevitable. The yoke of imperialism will never come back to Africa. The yoke of colonialism will never come back to Africa.
Come on.
I don't want you to think for 1 minute that the so-called rebels in Libya did anything. It's easy to have Europe bombing a town in Libya into oblivion, and then you march in like you did something. That's like me being in a boxing ring and I knock the fighter out, then you come back in and raise your hand like you're the champ.
Right.
They did nothing. They did nothing to deserve the capture of Libya. And we must say unequivocally to the world that that's not just an attack on Muammar Gaddafi and the people of Libya. It's an attack on every African person worldwide, and we will not stand for it. We will not stand for it. So even though my heart is in pain, my head knows we're gonna win.
That's right.
My head knows that we're on the verge of victory all over this world. This is a desperate attempt by putting an African president in the front of a racist, imperialistic policy and make it appear as though it's his. We will not be fooled by that. And Barack Obama, we're going to remember you next November. We're going to remember you and how you betrayed the vote of African people who put you in office. So as Libyans bleed, our hearts bleed. But we know that as long as we stick together, and as long as we come together like we did in Harlem, millions strong up to that date, when we got to millions of people before we even reached Harlem, through the internet, through the media, millions heard our message. We are an African people. Pan-Africanism or perish. Millions heard our message the day of. Webcast all throughout the world, simulcast throughout the nation. Millions heard our message. We are an African people, Pan-Africanism or perish. So we come today to celebrate. You will never beat us. We will never die. We will have setbacks. It's only setting us up for our ultimate victory over imperialism and exploitative monopoly capitalism in this country right here.
Come on.
So we say to the AU, we are your brothers, we are your sisters. We support your agenda, and we want to bring a strong message that when you mess with one African anywhere, you're messing with every African everywhere.
Thank you.
For whatever, backward never.
Thank you.
Peace, brothers and sisters. Our next speaker will be from the African Diaspora for Democracy and Development. Member Sylvestre KOUADIO.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for the December 12th movement, for having me here speaking on behalf of my African brother from the continent and to represent the African Diaspora for Democracy and Development. What's going on in Libya today is appalling, because the African Union that we all support, because they are supposed, the African Union is supposed to defend the interests of African people, whether they be on the continent of Africa or overseas. The African in the Pan-Africanism movement, they're supposed to support all of us. And what's going on in Libya goes against the principles of the African Union. So we're here to tell them, to tell the African Union members that we support you. And we want to remind you of the principle upon which we've been created, we've been founded, to protect the people of African descent, all the Africans, the interests of African countries. And what's going on in Libya might be new to some people, but it's not new to us, because not long ago we've seen the same scenario in Côte d'Ivoire, where a democratically elected president, President Laurent Gbagbo, has been removed by the French army and handed over to those so-called rebels who could not, by any measure, fight the regular army of the country. But the French army bombed the country, bombed the residence of the president, and gave him over to the rebels. And this is a shame. This is the same scenario repeating itself today in Libya. There's a lot of claims about Muammar Gaddafi having surrendered, his son being caught, and today they came back to reality and recognized that both of his sons were not caught. Because people saw them, they came out and said, hey, we are not caught. These are the lies and the media lies that we've gone through during the Côte d'Ivoire scenario. And they're repeating it again to betray people. But we are here to speak truly to all of the African people here and all of the international media as well. They want to listen to us, that the reality on the ground is not what they portray it to be in the newspapers. The major newspapers are not telling you what's going on. And today, the African Union, we want to remind you again that your role is to protect the African people, whoever they are. You are there, and you remember, just remember this. You claim that no armed forces, foreign armed forces are supposed to intervene in any African countries. The integrity of the territory, the independence of the country, and the sovereignty of the country have to be respected. Right. And you said it. Right. We're not inventing anything new. We're just repeating what you said. We just want you to remember that and to abide by your own rules. The message that I have for all the Africans is that the mentality has to change. The reason why all those invaders, that's what we call them, can come to African countries and do what they do the evil that they portray there, is because amongst ourselves we have treaties, people that give us a way to them. It is time for all African people to stand for their own rights on their territory and for the integrity of their territory, to never give themselves up to the enemy, because the enemy is not us. We are here today as Africans from the continent to unite with our brothers from the United States, because we are one people. And we should not fight amongst ourselves, but fight a real enemy, which is the capitalism, which is the neo-colonialism, which is imperialism from the Western world. And I reminded all my brothers and Africans from the continent that the Western world is not going to come and take us out or deliver us from the scourges of this oppression. We have to work for ourselves and make sure that we are on the same pages. Thank you very much, and I hope the message is well understood.